temporomandibular joint. So in this we will be discussing the competency of articulating surfaces, type and movements of temporomandibular joint. So you are seeing the mandible. So mandible is divided into two parts. The front part is called as body. The posterior part, extended part, is called as ramus. In the upper part of ramus, we can see the front process, that is coronoid process, and the back process, that is the condyle process or condyloid process. So one of the articulating surface is condyloid process. The upper part is called as head. So head will be articulating with the mandibular fossa to form the temporomandibular joint. And you are seeing another articulating surface. The circled area is the glenoid fossa or the mandibular fossa. So you can see in the beginning or in the front anteriorly there is one elevated structure that is called as articular tubercle. So that forms the anterior boundary of the mandibular fossa or glenoid fossa. Behind we can see the tympanic plate that forms the posterior part of the temporal fossa, mandibular fossa, and the proper, that is the glenoid fossa, where the condyle will be articulating. So these are the two articulating surfaces which form the temporomandibular joint. Then coming to articulation, it is the articulation between the mandible and the cranium. The articulating surfaces are mandibular condyles below, because it is a joint or a joint of two condyles, and the squamous temporal bones above. So there are two synovial joints, the left and right temporomandibular joints. So temporomandibular joint is a complex joint both morphologically and functionally. There is an articular disc which is interposed between the temporal bone and the mandible, dividing the space, articular space, into upper and lower compartments. In the upper compartment, there is primarily gliding movement. In the lower compartment, it functions as hinge joint. Coming to bone ossification. So bones of this joint are derived from membranous ossification. The articulating surface of temporomandibular joint are lined by dense avascular fibrous connective tissue. Because the bones which are forming the temporomandibular joint are membranous bones and are formed directly in the or by intramembranous ossification. Mandibular condyle. The articular surface of the mandibular condyle is the upper and anterior surface of the condyle. The articulating surface of the condyle is convex. The lateral pole of the condyle is roughened for the attachment of articular disc and the temporomandibular ligament. The medial pole also slightly roughened for the attachment of the articular disc. Then glenoid fossa or mandibular fossa and articular eminence. The glenoid fossa is the concavity within the temporal bone and houses the mandibular condyle. Its anterior wall is formed by articular eminence of the squamous temporal bone, and its posterior wall is formed by tympanic plate. The articular fossa is formed entirely by squamous portion of temporal bone. Articular eminence. Articular eminence is the transverse bar of dense bone that forms the posterior root of zygomatic arch and also the anterior wall of articular fossa. It has a large articular surface. The condyle and the disc move anterior to the summit of the eminence and onto pre-glenoid plane during wide opening. Articular disc. Articular disc is derived from a mesenchymal block of tissue that gives rise to capsule of the temporomandibular joint and the lateral pterygoid muscle. The articular disc is firm, oval, fibrous plate, and it is positioned between the mandibular condyle and the articular fossa and eminence on the other side. Capsule and ligaments. Articular capsule is quite thin anteromedially, medially, and posteriorly. It is thick anterolaterally and laterally, where it is attached to the articular tubercle. This reinforced lateral portion of the capsule is the temporomandibular ligament. Accessory ligaments. There are two accessory ligaments of the temporomandibular joint. They are sphenomandibular and stylomandibular ligaments. Sphenomandibular ligament. Sphenomandibular ligament is derived from Meckel's cartilage. It arises from the spine of sphenoid bone and inserts on the mandible at the mandibular lingula. Accessory ligaments. Stylomandibular ligament. It is deep cervical fascia that extends from styloid process to the region of mandibular angle. This ligament limits excessive protrusion movements. Movements of the temporomandibular joint. In no instance does a single muscle act independently. Instead, muscles act in groups and almost always in large group. Based on the movement, the muscles are grouped into. So, the muscles that affect the movement of mandible can be divided into 4 groups. Elevators include temporalis, masseter, and medial pterygoid muscles. Depressors are digastric, mylohyoid, geniohyoid, and lateral pterygoid. Protractors, both lateral pterygoid muscles. Retractors, digastric muscles, and the oblique fibers of the temporalis muscle, and also deep portion of masseter also retracts. Protrusion. Protrusion of the mandible is primarily the result of contraction of inferior heads of lateral pterygoid muscles. Lateral pterygoid muscles pull the mandibular condyles and discs forward and downward along the articular eminences. Retrusion. When the condyles are situated in the mandibular fossa, obliquely aligned middle fibers of the temporalis muscle retract the mandible or retrude the mandible. From the maximum protruded position, the posterior temporalis assists the middle temporalis during mandibular retrusion. Opening. The opening movement is caused by gravity and relaxation of the elevator muscles. In wide opening, the protracting force of the inferior head of lateral pterygoid muscles acting on the condyles and discs combined with the depressing and retracting force of geniohyoid, digastric, and mylohyoid muscles. Closing. During maximum opening, each disc and condyle glide anterior to the summit of the articular eminence onto the preglenoid plane. At the beginning of the mouth closure, disc and the condyles are moved back from this anterior position. The elevators execute this phase of closing movement. This action returns the jaw to the rest or occlusal position. Then we go on to discuss features of dislocation of temporomandibular joint. The temporomandibular joint is a specialized joint between the mandible and the temporal bone of skull. Condyles of the mandible articulate bilaterally into a concavity known as glenoid fossa. Coming to pathophysiology of dislocation, it is the movement of the condylar process in front of articular eminence and an inability to descend back to its normal position. It can be partial or subluxation or complete, that is luxation. It can be bilateral or unilateral, acute or chronic. Features of dislocation. The most common is the anterior dislocation. Dislocation of the temporomandibular joint is due to imbalance in the neuromuscular function or also structural deficit. Alteration in the neuromuscular function can occur due to laxity of the articular disc and the capsular ligament, long-standing internal derangement, or spasm of lateral pterygoid muscles. Features of dislocation. Structural deficit involves arthritic changes in the condyle, that is flattening or narrowing or decrease in the height of the articular eminence, or the morphological changes of the glenoid fossa. Age and changes in the dentition also play a definite role in dislocation. Other causes. Wide forceful opening of the mouth while yawning, laughing, vomiting or seizures. Dental treatments like third molar extractions or root canal treatments, or endotracheal intubation, laryngoscopy, transoral fiber optic bronchoscopy. Apart from that, certain antipsychotic medication also lead to dislocation. Some syndromes are also associated with it, such as Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, orofacial dystonia, and Marfan syndrome. Clinical features. The most common clinical symptom is the inability to close the oral cavity, that is open lock, difficulty in speech, drooling of saliva, lip incompetency. In acute dislocation, pain is there in the preauricular region, usually bilateral, and at times unilateral dislocation may lead to deviation of the chin to the contralateral side. Palpation over the preauricular region may suggest emptiness in the joint space. Clinical history and examination are the most important tools in diagnosing temporomandibular dislocation. Other confirmatory diagnostic aids include plain X-ray showing the location of the condylar head anterior to articular eminence. Then three-dimensional CT or computed tomography is the best in terms of its perfection to show this entity. Thank you.